While Stephanie Elderton's twin brother boys trapped a common cold, she never imaginary how one of them would end up in intense thoroughness. But the common cold advanced in bronchiolitis, and time bronchiolitis is normally a soft disease, in uncommon cases it becomes severe. Reese and Luca are adored twin brother boys. Now elderly 14 months, they were unborn early in 2017, inbound at 34 weeks. Reese waited 4lb70z and Luca 4lb20unce. They are identical boys, but identity wisdom they are fully various, says Stephanie. They are really talkative, they're really vivid. They loving bollocks and any pop-up toys and rotating toys. They love to laughter and they love to work. So, Reese likes to work. Luca's a lot more than severe, I would tell, rather than Reese. He is rather lucky to fare by himself and act by himself. In spite creature untimely, the Gemini did not need any specific thoroughness. Quickly following the childbirth they went household to exceed their older sibling Jamie, who is now 5. But in January 2018, while the Gemini were 5.5 weeks ancient, Stephanie noted how a common cold they had both of been affliction of was received worst, so she requested her general practitioner's surgical for consultation. Luca stopped feed as lot and I aforementioned the to the physician, I aforementioned the to the public health guest and they mainly told, not, it's completely penalty, they've fair got a common cold. I told, okay, no issue, we'll fair conduct on as we are. Later, while they were 6 weeks ancient, he wasn't awake, he wasn't consuming, and so I took him behind to the physicians, and I was love, down there is thing very incorrect since the is fair not how a infant should constitute. Stephanie as well noted changes in the way the Gemini were respiratory, it was lot more rapid rather than regular and more than labored. The GP shipped Stephanie direct to the regional clinic, Hinchingbrook in Cambridgeshire, wherever Luca was immediately put on a display to verify the oxygen supply levels in his bloodstream. They told he very wasn't really so and they put him direct in the top dependence block, HDU, and later they looked at Reese and went, we believe he's the identical, says Stephanie. The HDU is a chamber intended for human beings who requirement shut surveillance, but not intense thoroughness. The clinic doctors said Stephanie the Gemini were affliction of bronchiolitis, a state she had never heard of. Bronchiolitis is a virus trunk contagion and it's normally inflicted by the overall viruses how reason colds in adults, says Dr. Francis Gilchrist, a advisor in pediatric breath medical and guardian of the UK lung basis. It affects family by 1 year ancient, start off in known common cold symptoms. But in bronchiolitis the airways in the kids' lungs be sore and swell, challenging them to tight. In harsh cases less tubes in the kids' lungs, the bronchioles, hammer up in slime. In the extensive most of cases, family restore at household during 2 to 3 weeks. But fair sometimes harsh cases happen, on 2 to 3% of all early childhood need hospitalization, on to Francis Gilchrist. While to search assist parents should search immediate care assist if they see these scarlet banner signs, the disappointing item on bronchiolitis, he says, is how down there is no efficient treat for the main state. All the thoroughness how we do is supporting. So if required we offer oxygen supply or supporting their respiratory, or if they're very unhealthy they go on to include synthetic ventilation system in intense thoroughness. Luckily the is really uncommon, it just applies to 0.1%, or 1 in 1,000 family. In the HDU, Luca was stored on surveillance for 24 several hours but showed no signs of enhancement. They did several x-rays to see which was departure on and mainly the entire of his leftward lung was fully locked, says Stephanie. At the spot, the judgment was undertaken to go him to Addenbrooke's clinic in Cambridge, wherever he could be vented. But later things abruptly got severe. While they tested to pipe him, he mainly stopped respiratory generally, says Stephanie. They had to offer him CPR rather a few times and later they passed us direct to Addenbrooke's clinic, to intense thoroughness. Down there the fan did the respiratory for Luca to provide more than oxygen supply achieved his diminutive lungs. It was really difficult for Stephanie to look. He's fair lied down there, he's not wake since he's sedated, and you can concern him, you can say to him but he's not very him, you can't hug him or whatever, she says. To do things stronger, Reese had remained in Hinchingbrook Clinic and she had to hold phoning the chamber for updates. It was really hard and I didn't include my car each so I couldn't go behind and hereinafter so I fair stayed at Addenbrooke's, says Stephanie. I had to type of close Reese out, Luca's the one how as necessary me now, Reese is penalty, he's received the assist he as necessary, and fair type of not believe on it. Since differently how would include worn out me downward though more than. Luckily, Stephanie's mum was capable to expend period at Reese's bedside. Since the boys were Gemini the care crew suspected they would both of end up in the intense thoroughness block at Addenbrooke's, Stephanie says. But though Reese was really hardly, creature fed via a nose-stomach pipe, he stayed at Hinchingbrook. Largest cases of bronchiolitis are inflicted by breath syncytial viral infection, RSV, thing how largest family will include been vulnerable to by the period they are 3. Yet it can as well be inflicted by some viruses, such as rhinovirus, the largest overall reason of the overall common cold. Why several family are struck more than severely rather than other, is yet not completely understood, says Francis Gilchrist. Future assist and consultation, down there are specific hazard factors how family include how indicate they are more than at hazard of possessing harsh bronchiolitis and how would be if they are really youthful, if they were unborn early, if they include to existing illness, such as inborn cardiac illness, or if they include a main issue in their immunity framework. Yet down there are several family who include no of those hazard factors and end up in a harsh scene, and we can't completely. Explanation reason. Following 5 days in intense thoroughness, the care crew tested to get Luca off the fan and transmission him to a various technique of respiratory supporting, named as uninterrupted favorable air blood pressure, CPAP, but Stephanie says Luca couldn't get it and had to be put behind on the fan once again. I was really discouraged by how, since following 5 days he hadn't got any superior, weird type of driving a go not forward, says Stephanie. It thick felt as if it was never departure too late. For the period, Luca was possessing trunk physical therapy to try and weaken the slime of his airways. Eventually, following 7 days, he was undertaken off the fan and began to enhance. Stephanie says it thick felt really odd to hug him once again for the at first period. It was a bit love, I don't recall how to do the, she says. Luca was undertaken behind to the family's chamber at Hinchingbrook. His twin brother, Reese, had been unloaded the day up, but Luca had a trip of his older sibling, Jamie, who had been stay in Stephanie's parents' time the Gemini were in clinic. It was fair wonderful to see him, since it thick felt love I hadn't seen him for such a length period, says Stephanie. 24 several hours after Luca was unloaded too and the household was eventually reunited at household. Frightened the boys would capture else common cold, Stephanie did not get them external. But 2 weeks after she noted they were respiratory quickly once again, and the period they had dots. She named an emergency and the Gemini ended up behind at Hinchingbrook. Down there they were undiagnosed in brain fever and put on 4 antibiotics. Down there is no associate among bronchiolitis and bacterium brain fever, says Francis Gilchrist. It seems as although the boys were fair unfortunate. Following 6 days in clinic they were capable to back household, but once again Stephanie was frightened to get them of. Since they're Gemini, apparently Gemini appear to be rather extraordinary, everyone wants to see at them, everyone wants to concern them, all the old lady wish to kiss him them. It's fair insanity. So I was love, happy dong tea concern them, they could get hardly. A year after, she yet trouble on them receive colds. If my greater one gets bad, I'm love, dong tea concern them, clean your hands, she says. I'm really scared each period they coughing or whatever. If they do get a common cold, they tend to get really hoarse, Stephanie says, but they now include asthmatic inhalers and some medicine to bring respiratory inflammatory. She's noted how lot parents aware as slight on bronchiolitis as she did up her family became bad, and is acute to lift knowledge on the disease, and in special on the opportunity of harsh symptoms, though if they just happen in a little minority group of cases. I don't aware why it's not out down there, since of how severe it can constitute, she says. She says her hopes for the next are for her family to remain out of clinic and hold smile. But she knows the injury of winter 2018 didn't fair keep her while the family were unloaded. It's departure to be there ever, she says. All photographic politeness of Stephanie Elderton Margot Noel has a state named misophonia, that virtually tool hate of audio. It can be so harassing how she has to carry earphone or earplugs to defend by herself.